Not in a, we're so great, look at us, but kind of a little bit in that way.
We do a lot to dig into numbers, but we're not solely responsible for your full scaling strategy and your full marketing mix. Profitable, again, is a word that's been used just, is it just more revenue? 9 times out of 10 it isn't. It's looking at how do we increase your AOV from an ads perspective? How do we increase that lifetime value from an email perspective? And it's so easy to see the opportunities and wins for these clients because it's about being able to hyper target.
Welcome back to Generate Growth, the podcast where we talk all things ecom, growth and marketing. We've got a very exciting one today. We've missed our little party hats off though.
Yeah, but Sheena's going to edit those on.
Oh, I wish I could.
Yeah,
But
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. I hope they're not really embarrassing ones though, because I can see that one coming already.
Yeah, we know what's coming next.
Yeah, do you want to share why we're excited?
It's our 5th birthday! 5 years in business. It's been an interesting one to say the least. But yeah, 5 years of amazing client results. And I guess that's what we're going to be speaking about today in detail.
Yeah, so as all good women should, we're going to be celebrating this for at least the next month. Yeah.
Next year.
How many champagnes can we get out of it?
We'll see. We'll see how much we can squeeze.
So today I'd love to talk through some of the wins over the last 5 years, not in a, we're so great, look at us, but kind of a little bit in that way. And speaking about the clients across all the different businesses that have got really great results with us.
Yeah.
So before we do jump into those results, when we're talking about wins for the client, everyone automatically assumes ROAS. ROAS is high, that's a win.
Up.
Yeah. What do wins look like for
They
us?
are so messy sometimes, to even try and articulate and put together in a one paragraph. But I think this is what makes us so great as an agency. We really listen during our sales process, and I actually much prefer it to be a discovery process because everyone that we kind of connect with, I believe we're partnering with. We're not necessarily selling them on a service. We're jumping into a partnership of mutual respect and mutual gains, and ultimately that's what I think sets us apart right from the beginning. We care about the client's results, we care about the client's goals, both professionally and personally, and we build it into a bespoke plan. So sometimes more revenue can mean more disasters, and we've seen that sometimes. People jump in and they're like, listen, I want to double my revenue, I've got this really ambitious goal, and before we know it, stock issues are happening, margins are eroding, and we're just like, Jesus, we've got to scale this back to scale it forward again. And I think that's what's really, really important to understand how we win as an agency. You need to understand internally what your wins are, and you need to know your numbers. And this is something that we always bang on about, but knowing your numbers then sets you up for that path of success, not only with us, but in business, full stop. So a win is very messy, and sometimes it can be very personal, but we like to think that we build and shape bespoke plans around that specific experience.
Yeah, I think there's a reason why we call our calendar for client bookings the profitable growth strategy call. We're here to make you profitable, but we're here to do it with an actual strategy behind it. We're not just going to throw something and hope it sticks.
Yeah. And I think the key is profitable, again, is a word that's been used just, is it just more revenue? 9 times out of 10 it isn't. It's looking at how do we increase your AOV from an ads perspective? How do we increase that lifetime value from an email perspective? And when we marry those two things together, what does that look like as a bespoke game plan moving forward? And all these things are really important and integral to understanding what profitable looks like, because for a beauty brand, for example, and I always harp on about this, it is very much who can spend the most wins. So if you can spend more acquiring a new customer, but that new customer stays for a long period of time through a lifetime value, yes, on the front end, that initial ROAS probably doesn't look that impressive when it's a 1.5 to a 2. But what you usually see in beauty brands is they've got higher margins and the ability to get that customer to come back time and time again, cross-sell, upsell, replenishing the products. So it's a completely different ball game to versus someone completely other end of this side of things, which is our solar panel brands that we work with, who've got high average order value, and we need to squeeze them as much profitability from that first purchase. Not saying that they don't have returning customers, but it's a lot less. So we need to squeeze as much profitability out that first purchase to give them that cash injection to be able to reinvest and keep reinvesting into acquiring new customers and being able to compete with our bigger competitors as well. So I think that's why profitability is such an important play and conversation, because it doesn't necessarily mean how much money can we make you in the first month and how quickly can we get you there. It's really assessing the cash flow situation, the margins and the overall health of the business to ensure that we're going in the right direction of where the business needs us to go.
Yeah, and that profitability is one of those things that will underpin every single one of these wins. So kickstarting them with the most probably dramatic and the most exciting client win. I should have put this one last, actually, so we're kind of ending on a high.
You kind of like
starting
up.
off there.
Yeah.
When performance is looking really, really bad, what is under the bonnet, let's say, and how do we turn that into a win?
Yeah, so when performance is really, really bad and we've noticed that there's a leaky bucket, it's a couple of things. Like, it's very much a doctor's diagnosis at that point and trying to figure out what the issue is. But what are we talking specifically about this client?
Yeah, specifically about this client.
So speaking specifically about this client, the content messaging was off and ultimately the platforms weren't built for success. I remember jumping into this account and there was so much going on and there was so many different spinning plates that it was really hard to attribute what was working. So the first month of diagnosis was actually unpicking everything that was happening and trying to find the root of where the problems were occurring. I remember there was a ludicrous, in Google Ads, there was a ludicrous amount of campaigns activated. And I get the premise, and this is the thing, it's very easy as a freelancer doing an audit or an agency doing an audit, looking at an account and thinking, they don't know what the fuck they're doing. But actually 9 times out of 10, there is some sort of steer and understanding behind the direction of what they're trying to build in the account. And I got it. This particular client was a stockist. And they had a lot of brands being thrown into the mix. And what they were trying to do was split out the brands by Performance Max so they could scale up per brand based on profitability and ultimately based on the steer and the stock levels of the client. In essence, great, that works. But actually what needed was a consolidation of the account to see where is the low-hanging fruit, what is the most common kind of product, if you like, that's getting searched by Google, and really going like consolidating right in onto specifics versus all the way out and making it a mess. And once we did that, we've seen amazing results. I'm sure you're going to speak through them. My screen's gone off, so I can't speak through them myself, but I'm sure you're going to speak through the results of what happened next. But it was very much a messy kind of build that led to the decrease in the overall profitability and the margins eroding. Now, what we did was obviously consolidated the account, but we got the messaging bang on as well. They were focusing on this brand as if they were just a hair care stockist. They have so many different SKUs for so many different reasons, and studying like the search volume and what's trending and making sure that you're kind of understanding the market and where the market's going. Like specifically, for example, K-beauty has become so popular over the past 2 years, and we can see, the Korean influence on westernized culture happening drastically. So when we really focused on the K-beauty element, we unlocked revenue that the client probably didn't even know was sitting there because we managed to jump on a trend and a bandwagon. So yeah, that's kind of like how we aligned our messaging to the audience, and plus cleaning up the underneath of what was happening. It allowed us to focus more on that scalability and growth and doing it profitably as well, because as this brand was growing, they depended on that instant cash injection from that first purchase.
So with that client as well, I know we kind of said we're not just speaking about ROAS here, but obviously there's a lot of other things that went into play with that client, like including email. But the ROAS for that client was taken from a 0.38 to a 5.45 in 130-ish days.
And it's even better now. Like, that client stayed with us and it's even stronger now. Like, it's up to like between a 7 and an 8, depending on the month and depending on what was happening too. And we didn't stop testing during those periods. And I know email did have a huge and has had a huge part of that, which I'm sure you're going to like maybe touch upon. But the front end was so important for us to attract the right customers in, and the ones that are going to not just purchase once but become big fans of the brand so that they can keep returning time and time again.
Yeah, I think importantly as well, though, and we've had this conversation with the client, they came at us with flows that had been settled by a previous agency, and trying to make my words come out really polite with this one. They had done the hair focus, so all those opportunities were like a huge leaky bucket there, and obviously that's something that the client's actively looking to fix now. But one of the fundamentals that client had was an understanding that ads and email speak together, and she's invested into her organic strategy and everything. Like, this client has really looked at all of those leaky buckets and established how they were all consolidated into one, and where she was losing those opportunities. So obviously that ROAS was incredible, but those spikes that we've seen after that 0.38 to 5.45 transition have all been bolstered by the client effectively collaborating with us and understanding that isn't the ceiling, and we can do better when all engines are firing.
And listen, like, we could have threw a lot more budget at it a lot quicker and got much better results in terms of like scalability and growth, which is what everyone seems to be after. We could have got like amazing revenue during periods, but would that have led to the client feeling stressed, burnt out, and not knowing their ass from their elbow it's just what we decided was the best thing to do. And actually what we've done over the past 2 months is freeze spend. So we've not actually raised budget, but we've started to really look at how we make more from that budget. And I think that's so important as well, because some of the lessons that we've learned as an agency and clients out there need to understand is you can't double your ad spend and double your revenue, or your ad related revenue. It doesn't work like that. And time again we've been put into a situation where the client will say, this is what I want. We go ahead, we spend the cash, and we come out the other end, and the client's going, oh, but I'm not making as wait. But I've kind of done the spending, and now and what we try and say is, this is why it's so important to look at the whole economics of the business. We're a paid ads and retention agency. We're not like, we do a lot to dig into numbers, but we're not solely responsible for your like full scaling strategy and your full marketing mix. And that's when we have those honest conversations of maybe it's time to look into PR, for example, or AI discoverability, or your organic strategy. And that helps grow beyond just the ad strategy, because we don't want to just be burning through your cash as quickly as we possibly can, because we know how important it is to maintain other levels of growth as well.
Moving on to our second win. And you briefly touched upon this client already, but for our solar panel client, we have a lot of people approaching us thinking high AOV, too niche, too technical, it won't work. How do we make wins happen for clients like this, and what was that specific client's experience?
I don't know who I need to speak to and shout about this is, out of all the brands that we work with, sorry to the other brands, but I really love a good high AOV client. And the reason that I love it is because usually when it's high AOV, it's hyper niche. And there's a reason why it's hyper niche. So the solar panel brand, for example, we've also got a caravan mattress brand that has jumped on board with us now. And it's so easy to see the opportunities and wins for these clients, because it's about being able to hyper target based on that really niche kind of creativity, if you like, and speaking to a very niche audience. And it allows us to get really, really creative with how we're messaging and learn it. We learn a lot about these clients too, to be able to like really convey their product. I mean, I know all sorts about batteries now that I never thought that I would know, because it's the way that we've got to communicate. And I think with the high AOV clients, what it gives is more breathability to spend a little bit more cash to get more in the bank. But ultimately what we've seen is that actually, like, we're not spending like anywhere near as much as you would think we are. But then I always highlight the importance to the team, especially of, you have to be making sure that new customer acquisition at the beginning is cheap. Because if it's cheap, that means that ultimately on the first purchase, we're profitable. So we can upsell and cross-sell that person. But if they spend a fuck ton in that initial period, the pressure is off. So yeah, really fun brands to play around with. Hyper focus on keywords within Google, and making sure that we're ranking specifically there, making sure our audience signals are really strong. Our content strategy speaks to the right demographic, speaks to the right part of the funnel as well, because with higher AOV, there's a longer consideration period. So when we're focusing on the messaging at different stages of the funnel, that's super important to make sure that we're kicking people over the finish line for a cheaper cost. So all those things when working with high AOV clients is so much fun. And again, it comes part and parcel with niche products 9 times out of 10, which is also really fun to work with.
Yeah. This particular client as well had a 114% year-on-year growth in terms of revenue.
I mean, you say these numbers to us now, but I just see this as normal. Like it's so crazy. Like even the previous client we were speaking about, I just go, yeah. So they've got 100% year on year. I failed to
114 by the way, not 100.
Yeah. But I fail to sometimes recognize how mental that is, especially when the economics are baked in to make sure that these clients are making more money, that we're actually like, it's amazing work that we do. And I think when it's only every now and again when we mention it, it becomes sobering again to be like, oh yeah, Jesus, that's what we're doing.
What would be one takeaway then for a high AOV, hyper niche brand to kind of increase that 114? Just one though, you're only allowed the one.
I think it's knowing who your audience is and being able to, because there's a lot of technicals that can come with high AOV products. I know I'm speaking specifically there, but it is 9 times out of 10, it does become somewhat technical. Being able to break down that technical into human to human speak, and having really good customer service baked in along the way, you're gonna be absolutely flying.
So moving on to our third one, which was, we're getting even more niche now. We're getting mega niche with it. Our client was very much like, we can't target our customers on Meta because, are they even there? We're super niche. And they were selling crutches and walking sticks.
Yeah, mobility sticks.
Yeah. What did winning look like for that client?
This one was where because the client was so open creatively to being able to test.
I remember she was so happy doing like really crazy out there creatives to get attention.
And it attracted the right audience in, right? And I think that's what she was missing, because it's a serious topic and someone needing support for the mobility, that a level of seriousness was almost taken in all the approach to ever advertising walking sticks or mobility support or anything like that. But this client really was playful with it and allowed us to really push to the line of meme culture and stuff like that allowed us to stand out from the crowd ultimately, and also a lot of comparison. So the NHS provides walking sticks and crutches for very specific disabilities. How do we communicate why they should buy ours? And that's when we really got to play around with the USPs, and really push the whole idea of the products in front of the target demo. And it got really good reactions, and it was really fun to build it creatively along with the strategy behind the scenes as well, to make sure they were staying profitable.
I think that was the thing for that client. They were in a sea of boringness. Mobility aids for everyone were produced to be just that. They were produced to be a mobility aid. But when we think about the capacity in which people are using them, they're using them daily. They're practically a part of their outfit. Yeah, it's the same as wearing a pair of shoes.
Well, I made the comparison to glasses, because they're an aid, and that every single person. I mean, your glasses are there, my glasses are on my face. They speak about your personality. Yours they're big and bold. Yeah, mine are a bit more subtle, but that speaks to personalities, right? And I think that's so important to represent in all kinds of different products, not just mobility aids. But when I was speaking to the client and I made that comparison, it became more easier, because look at Specsavers. They have so much fun with their advertising. They directly look at the issue and solve it through their advertising. So then you can kind of have that playfulness approach to it. which allowed a lot more creative freedom in the overall strategy. And I think it really resonated with the target audience.
Yeah. I love the Specsavers comparison.
Yeah.
I feel like for anyone who isn't British and doesn't get the reference there, a lot of the Specsavers positioning is, for example, someone going to sit on a bench, they've not got the glasses on and they go and sit on a roller coaster instead.
Yeah.
Like they've been so playful with the fact that you should have worn your glasses. You should have gone to Specsavers. Like it's a really, really good example.
Yeah.
Flipping the narrative then and moving on to another client win. Obviously, we've been speaking very niche, but there's clients that can be a lot more broad than that.
Oh, yeah.
So this is way before my time, but you had a client with a very, very specific one hero product who is still doing really, really well for themselves. They're an incredible
more products
brand.
Now. That was one of the issues.
They have got more products now. But what does scaling look like for a client that doesn't have that huge catalogue to hide behind?
Yeah, this listen, I'm completely frank about this business. This client actually jumped off because they had that one hero product, and ultimately it was very difficult on the front end to keep them profitable, because the hero product was a low AOV, but quite not high margin, but quite high margin. Boy, did we test! This was so much fun because I always remember this client came to us just as the I'm going to get it all. I always get it wrong because I've worked with both, but iOS update, I got it right.
Yeah.
iOS update. And when that happened, obviously we lost a lot of data. And things started moving quite significantly towards no audience testing anymore. And that was wild for any media buyer because it meant that you had to become more creatively inclined. And I actually think we have a lot of discussions about media buyers versus creative strategists at the moment. Media buyers do have to have an element of creativity to it. Yeah. They have to be able to read the data and understand what's working and what isn't working and be able to feed that back to a creative strategist to have an ongoing discussion. Just going out and being a creative strategist of trends or, the next big thing, I completely agree, should be their focus, but it needs to be baked in some sort of data, and being able to kind of read put those two roles together and being able to read actively is so important.
Yeah, a creative strategist without the data reading is a graphic designer.
Exactly. And I think ultimately that was the big thing with this client. When we were having discussions at the time, it was me solely alone going through the apocalypse of audiences and working with this client who was from an agency background and was very open, and it more become like a collaboration of management, full stop, because they were the ones that were providing the creatives. We were the ones that were, really helping harness how that should be used. We are having landing pages thrown into the mix, and that was so creatively intriguing. We were trying listicles, for example. We were trying, traditional product pages. So much testing was happening, and it really did open my eyes up to scale quickly and scale spend. That ultimately means that you have to be so on it when it comes to the rapid fire testing that we see in the culture that's so embedded into media buying now. But back then, it was craziness, to be doing what we're doing. And I think that ultimately, when I really started testing that out with that specific client, we were trying all different angles, all different kind of styles of creative, UGC, everything that you can imagine was going into this account. And we then started to decide the more broader that we were going, the more that this was working. So the less that we were niching down audiences. This was an entire year, 2 years, 18 months, say, before Meta even announced Andromeda. And we were saying, this is what we need to be doing. We need to be going broad, and the creative needs to be super niche and speaking directly to the person to make sure that they're personalising the journey. 2 years. So you can imagine how scary at the time when our comm strategy as an agency turned around, and when we were speaking to new clients as well, who you're trying to get them to trust you during the sales process. We are looking at these accounts and we're saying, we think that the reason that you're tanking is because you're not being broad enough in your targeting or niche enough in your messaging. Really did rub some people up the wrong way. But fast forward 2 years and I think the results continue to speak for themselves as to a testament to how we're always testing and how we're always looking for these nuances. But yeah, super fun client to work with. Eventually jumps off because the profitability was just not there and it wasn't the right time, maybe a little bit too early working with an agency, which is a whole other podcast episode, but has now gone on to release more products into their ranges, and I can see that would probably have increased the AOV and the lifetime value of a lot of their customers, and it would have meant that they're going to be absolutely flying now. So yeah, super proud to have worked with them. Huge beauty brand, like really keep a close eye on what they're doing, because they were very ahead of their time.
I'm devastated that I missed out on that client, because I would love to have had a discount on the nail products that they do now.
Yeah.
Just on a personal level, I'm just like, can I have a discount?
Yeah.
But speaking of, I have got on my notes that there was no discounts involved with that client.
There was no discounts involved with that client. That was one thing that because the margins were so thin to begin with, that was one of the things that were a challenge, right? Like if we were collecting email addresses, how would we, kind of get them to jump on board? But yeah, there was a no discount strategy involved in that. And you know what? I sit here now and I'm like, I'm saying, it just wasn't there. The results were still pretty good. I'm sure you've got a couple of stats in front of you there of like how the results were looking. The results were really, really positive. It was just that with that initial period, the cash squeeze was there, and the agency usually is the first one to make the cut, but the working relationship was fantastic.
Yeah,
it really was.
I mean, the ROAS was taken from 2.73 to 3.48, the CPA of 13.45 to 18.28. So great results.
It's an example of where the economics were just not working, but the relationship was fire. And still to this day, I mean, as soon as you mentioned this client, I was smiling ear to ear. And sometimes that's what it's about, respecting each other's trade and what they bring to the table, but just understanding when it's time to cut the cord and maybe go and try something new and different. And that's when, like, I like to believe that our reputation as an agency is we're a bit no bullshit, and that's
Absolutely.
where and that's where it comes into play a lot. Like we understand when it's time to kind of let someone go because we're just not gelling or vibing for whatever reason.
On to our fifth one then. Yes. Our fifth win. Fifth for 5 years.
Ooh, 5.
One of our longest term clients. So we're speaking here about multi-channel profitability.
Oh, right, okay.
So what does it look like then when we're not just fixing things, but we're kind of building that foundation for really long-term growth and ROI? Because we had great results for this client.
Oh, yeah. Fantastic results for this client. I think ultimately the thing about multi-channel growth is, and this is a trap I see a lot of business owners falling into, it works on TikTok, so it must work on Meta. Like, they compare the platforms as if they're the exact same thing. Stop it. Stop doing it. There's so many different moving parts across all these different platforms that people aren't taking into consideration. So even an example, it's working on TikTok, it must be working on YouTube Shorts, or like vice versa. And one of the things that we started to do was really dig into what was working. So on TikTok, it was a very specific audience, and it was where this client spent a lot of their time producing and creating organic content. On Meta, it was an older audience.
Yeah.
Markedly older audience than what they were used to on TikTok. That's difficult for any founder who when it's a founder-led business, to try and adapt a strategy from what they were achieving on TikTok into Meta. So this is where our experience comes into kind of handling the process, if you like, of trying to, get better results and speak very niche to a specific audience. Then you've got obviously Google, and with this particular client again, very, very competitive products, there's a lot of the same products out there. And this is why it works so well on TikTok, because the founder got on there and was like, the reason that I've done this is because I suffered with XYZ.
Yeah.
And that was so compelling as a story. How do you play that game when someone's just searching a broad keyword? You can't play the same game. So you have to become creative in the way that you're communicating through text on Google primarily. Like this, I'm talking specifically search campaigns. But then you obviously bake things in like your shopping, making sure your shopping feed is healthy. But I think where the victory really come with this client, and I know there was emails going on in the background as well, and the flows and kind of that retention marketing play. But I think what was underpinning the entire thing and where things come really, really interesting was Triple Well. Because we started to learn how long it took a customer to convert, the overlap, where everything was kind of crossing over. If someone was purchasing through TikTok Shop, how to start to get them to go onto the website so that we can own that data and own that traffic, and really building a strategy around, again, profitability in the long term, not just the short term. Because the quick win there was TikTok Shop, and getting those purchases through the door. But we highlighted straight away why there was a fundamental issue with that, and I don't know if you want to dig into that a little bit.
Yeah. So this client had, while they were with us, they had a 1,300% increase in their revenue. On email, they had I remember it specifically, it was 333 because I don't have it on my notes, but I remember producing the report when they eventually left us. And I felt really, really proud of myself because that was actually my work. And I was like, oh, I did really, really well on that client. But the entire time, TikTok had me up against it.
Yeah.
And that growth was so, so difficult because everyone was shopping on TikTok.
Yeah.
The emails were all lost because every email that comes through from TikTok is just gibberish. If you ever see them in the back end of Klaviyo, it may as well be a keyboard smash. So you can't retarget the customer afterwards. And what we were seeing more and more, despite the fact that all of their email campaigns were optimized for mobile, was that their brand was just developing this mobile connection with the customers.
Yeah.
And we went, okay, we need to scale back on the email and we need to ramp up SMS and give that a test. However, clients don't like SMS, do they? And they always feel quite passionate about hating SMS. So we kind of hit that ceiling there in terms of TikTok was not giving us the emails we needed to get those returning customers back. Our flows were doing the work in the background to get to reconvert those cold customers if they potentially hadn't purchased in a while, your replenishment reminders and all that jazz. But TikTok just kind of became like a nail in the coffin for an email and SMS strategy because we fundamentally had the client go in, I don't like SMS, I don't want to do it. So we couldn't really scale that platform. And then email almost hit that 333 percentage growth because TikTok just became a hindrance.
Yeah. And I think, not to kind of go back on what we were saying before about predicting broad within Meta, I predicted TikTok Shop being a huge issue in 2023. And the point in which I predicted TikTok being a huge issue was scalability during Black Friday.
Yeah.
The ad space, I believe, wasn't there. And everyone was spending. And then you've got the big players in the game that are going to be able to really, really spend. And if you're in those people's niches, you've got absolutely no chance. And I remember, at the time, blowing up the TikTok rep, being like, how do we increase spending? Because Meta is so easy. It's just you just unlock more creative avenues and you increase budget and you do it in a systemized way. I was like, what do we do? And they're like, don't worry about it. Oh, your discount's not gone. Oops, a daisy. And I'm like, Jesus, we've built a whole thing around, a whole strategy, a growth strategy and a predictability strategy around this specific platform. And you guys couldn't give a flying fuck. And you guys have built your platform like a QVC style shopping platform. I seen a LinkedIn post. Well, Joe tagged me in a LinkedIn, our CSM, tagged me in a LinkedIn post the other day. And it was a brand saying they're cutting TikTok Shop. And we've seen P. Louise turn off their TikTok Shop for a while. Why? Why would these big brands who have made their existing audience on TikTok start to jump? It's because of everything we've just said. Yeah. They've got too much control over your narrative, over your profit margins. And this isn't me anti-TikTok hating, but there's been certain things that I've just really not liked. The GMV campaigns where you harness organic content and then it becomes murky on what the ads contributed and what your organic efforts contributed. Just feels like a little bit of a grey area for me that they're not really addressing to really help brands grow. Yeah. I feel like, all these platforms have got the little nuances that I absolutely detest. But
Meta.
Meta. But I feel like TikTok was the one I fell out of love with quickly because of that reason. I don't think it's really there for a scalability strategy.
Yeah, I think even talking on more of a macro scale regarding TikTok, I think from my perspective, all I've ever seen it be is basically the burnout platform.
Yeah.
Because it
Poor
is
founders.
so competitive. I remember this particular client doing something ridiculous, like I think it was their 3rd birthday or something like that. And they went, we're going to do 3 days straight on live. We're not going to switch it off. It was something crazy like that. I might be way off mark, but it was something crazy.
I think it was 12-hour days, though.
Yeah. And I just remember that client coming to us so stressed, like talking about the ads and things like that. And I was like, you've taken on way too much.
Yeah.
And this platform's encouraged it.
Yeah. I always remember that the moment when my TikTok rep told me that I should be suggesting to clients that they're on lives for 8 hours. At least. And if you're going to put ad spend behind it, that's really the sweet spot because it allows the algorithm time to warm up. And it makes sense when you say it out loud. The algorithm does need time to go and find your target audience. But
it's a human being on that video. 8 hours.
I mean, is it going to be in a few years' time? That's my next prediction.
Very true.
The rise of AI influencers, is it going to all be turned on its head anyway? But TikTok slander aside, we did win an award with them.
Awkward.
With this particular client, we won an award, and it was because we managed to harness a specific content type at the time, into an ad strategy that generated so much money. So yeah, they were, working with this client was really, really fun during the period. Again, I think it was time that they moved on, and it was an outgrowing. We'd both kind of outgrown each other. And they're on to bigger and better things, and I wish them all the best. But ultimately, I really want you to say out loud the numbers that we achieved with this client, because honestly, the growth was insane.
Yeah, so I don't have the actual revenue figures in front of me, but we did manage a 1,300% growth for this client. As I said before, it was 333% growth on email. It was a 30% increase in ROAS. Why can I not read this? If I put my glasses on, that might help.
Specsavers?
Yeah, should have gone to Specsavers, but 3 paid channels were all profitable for this client at the same time, and they did stay with us for 2 years.
Yeah. A long period of time to really get to know someone and work alongside them.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like a testament to that long-term investment and really
100%.
Understanding.
And look where she is now.
Yeah.
Absolutely flying.
Yeah, Forbes 30 under 30.
Yeah, Forbes 30 under 30.
Yeah. So every single one of them is a very, very different business in a different way. To kind of summarize those wins, what do you think were the patterns faced by them all to achieve those wins?
Do you know what? What I'm going to say is probably not what people are going to think, but the founder left her ego at the door. They were collaborative. They left her ego at the door, and they allowed us to do our job and do it well, whatever that looked like in the partnership. I spoke about, I nearly said the client's name then, and we're not naming them, but I spoke about the hero product brand.
Yeah.
And the collaboration was, we pretty much in the accounts together, like getting stuck in together, because it was like a learning experience. To someone going, I don't know how I'm going to change my audience type from young female to older female on Meta. I'm going to leave you guys to figure that out. Come back to me with a few ideas. Those clients that leave their ego at the door and allow us to work with them instead of against them, or challenging us all the time. I love to be challenged, but challenge us all the time over the silliest things. Those are the ones that succeed and end up staying with us the most. And I think one of the things that I want to say is, like, this year, 2026, we've had 100% client retention rate. And it's something that we don't shout about a lot, but Jesus, is that impressive. Like, we have constantly been of the mindset of, we're a boutique agency, and the reason that we want to be that is because we want a partnership with people and really push them forward. And seeing businesses grow like exponentially while working with us, and seeing the founders change and come up with new challenges and speak to us as human beings as we are when we grow our businesses as well, like, those things are just so rewarding, like really so rewarding. And it does take me sometimes when I think about everything that we've achieved, it doesn't quite sink in, but like when we have conversations like this, I'm like, wow, it's been a wild 5 years.
I feel like that was a mic drop moment, and I don't really want to add anything on top of it.
Well, you just did, and you ruined it. You should have went to Specsavers.
Amazing. Obviously, so many exciting wins there, and the wins are only going to compound. So,
yeah, I mean, we've got really exciting things coming. There's about to be another launch that is absolutely my baby, and we've built something really amazing out that I can't wait to start speaking about.
And a really, really exciting one for Q4 as well for all our clients. So,
and you talk about hating SMS, we're going to make you love it.
Yeah. So that'll be our core focus in our next episode. We'll be talking about having a little bit of a mid-year reset and fixing some of those leaky buckets before Q4 hits.
Amazing, exciting.
Sign off the way that we sign off, team me.
Let's do it. It's almost like Christmas for parents, isn't it? Like, how's this come round so quickly?
No, because
again?
Black Friday hits, and then December hits, and then we're talking about post-Black Friday, and then January is still kind of post-Black Friday. I feel like we have like 2 months off. What would you say is like the biggest misconception about Q4 prep? And then they came to us and said, oh, but I had really low revenue months, and when we looked into the data, we went, you had no stock.
Yeah.
There was nothing to sell.
Which is why it's so important in the offset to get on the right page.
Absolutely.
In some cases, you're not even reading the right book.
None of it's boring when you're on a yacht with a big bottle of a magnum of champagne, is it?
Yeah, magnum, you had to get that in there, didn't you? I do know the actual term for it.
I know the term, by the way. I do know it. I've seen them in Tesco.